The Los Angeles Chargers playing Kansas City. The line is 5.5. One of the greatest bettors we know, Marco D'Angelo, is going to take that game apart, plus so much more. Ralph will look at Tennessee, Alabama. We got a great show for you, everybody. I'm Lawrence Presman. My co-host is Teddy Covers, and you're watching the best daily sports betting show on the planet. Ralph Michaels, welcome, my friend. How are you?
Happy Friday, guys. I am always excited to start the weekend off here on WagerTalk Today.
Sure, it's football Friday time. We're going to focus, obviously, on football today, both NFL and college. And, Ralph, I want to start with the game tonight, where there's been a pretty significant line move over the course of the last few hours. Temple's quarterback has been ruled out. SMU and Temple tonight on ESPN. Right now, I'm seeing SMU minus 23.5, even minus 24. Total sitting at 55. This line has moved fairly significantly in the last 24 hours. Talk about why this game is one you wanted to discuss to open the show.
Well, I wanted to discuss it because, number one, it was a client release. And we have an incredible special at WagerTalk, $199 for a 30-day all-access. And one of the most significant reasons to get an all-access package is as soon as anyone at WagerTalk releases a play during the week, you're getting that play and taking advantage of the move. So while my clients got SMU minus 20.5, this line is now 23. Let me talk about why I liked SMU quickly, and then I want to talk about that line move. You know, SMU is playing a second of back-to-back road games, but it's not a true back-to-back road games because they played last Thursday. They actually have an extra day of rest with 7 days between games. Statistically, Temple is one of the worst teams in college football. These teams have both played very weak schedules, almost identical. But Temple is number 122 out of 133 teams in yards per play diff, number 128 in points per game, and SMU is number 27 and number 19, respectively. Looking at SMU, they either crush an opponent or they lose significantly. Every game they have this year has been decided by 17 points or more. They're a perfect 4-0 ATS as an away favorite under Lashley, covering by 12.12 points per game. And Temple, 0-6 this year against FBS foes, failing to cover by 13.67 points per game. E.J. Warner missed last week. He was a late scratch. He was in concussion protocol this week. So that means they go to Quincy Patterson. Patterson, 14 of 34 for 41.2% on the season. 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's going to cause for an issue. So, Prez and Teddy, the question was this. It moved 2.5 points, but the line was 20. Is that move significant? Is it more significant than a game that may move from 2 to 4.5? Well, what do? You go to the database and look at points. I went back at the last 10 years in college football since 2014. There have been 2,234 games when there's a team that's been a favorite of 20 or more. How many of those were an ATS cover from 0 to 2.5 points? This number surprised me. 210, or 9.4% of every college football favorite of 20 points or more covered by 2.5 points or less. Meaning, if you are playing into these line moves like this SMU game tonight, you're giving away 9.4% of your bankroll plus juice. So let's make that over 10.3% trying to play into a line move.
Sure. So the concept here, and let me just say it in a little bit of a different way than you did, Ralph, but the concept is that when a line moves 2.5 points and you're getting the worst of it, it really doesn't matter. You talked about if it's minus 2 versus minus 4.5, or plus 4.5 to plus 2 versus plus 20 to plus 22.5, or plus 21 to plus 23.5. We talk about how results are distributed, and it tends to look like a bell curve. You can Google that if you're not familiar with it, but a bell curve with the peak of the bell right around the point spread. So when you're moving at 2.5 points, you're losing 2.5 points. You're going to take, if it's a 52-48 or a 55-45, you're flipping the percentages the other way because you're not getting the best of the number. So Ralph explaining why he would release this for his clients during the week, and then pull down the package once the line moved. That's the advantage of that all-access pass. Lawrence?
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, this is just indicative of how great the show is, Teddy, because this is really, really, really good information. And I think information that a lot of recreational bettors don't pay attention to. I mean, line chasing is it's a big thing in our industry. Somebody wakes up and they're like, oh, Philadelphia Eagles are going to beat Miami at -1. Now it's -2.5. Big deal. Not a big deal. We'll still take Philadelphia. And there's an example right there, guys. Ralph, man, you should do 8 hours a day by yourself every day, man. Like, honest to God, I don't think you need Teddy and I. We got a chart coming up, right? CFB teams with 7 losses. Tell us about it.
Well, we know this is my once-a-year segment, and I do it every year because sometimes people don't think about it early. When we're still October, you don't think about a team having 7 losses. But there's 133 FBS teams. Guys, every one of those has aspirations to go to a bowl when the season starts. They think they can get the 6 wins. No matter how bad you are, you still think you can get there. But what happens when you lose your 7th game? Your bowl hopes are dashed. And how does that affect you? So the top of the chart shows this is the last 10 years, excluding the COVID season. Overall, if you just blindly played every team that is off of their 7th loss, it's 44.8%. So fading them is 55.2%. When I broke down game by game number 12 is actually 51.3%. So does that make sense? To me, absolutely, because what happens in game 12? 85% of the team are playing their rivals in game 12. So despite what your record is, you're playing against your rival. So take a look at game 8, 9, 10, and 11, 44, 42, 42, and 43% against the spread, just blindly playing those teams. On the bottom of the chart, I broke down what happens after their 7th loss, if they're a home favorite, a home dog, away favorite, or away dog. A lot of data. I will put this up on Twitter at CalSportsLV. But again, games 8, 9, 10, and 11, excluding game 12, teams with 7 losses off a loss have only covered 42.8% the last 10 years. And FYI, this Wednesday is the first of those situations. San Jose State is hosting UTEP. And next Saturday, there may be more, but UMass is at Army. So those are the first 2 teams it applies to next Wednesday and next Saturday.
And Sam Houston also suffered their 7th loss this week already. So that's something to pay attention to. Moving forward, I believe, Ralph. Let's keep going.
Sam Houston is playing Wednesday. Yep.
Yes. Let's talk about Tennessee, Alabama. Obviously, this is a game that's gotten a fair bit of hype, as it should. Look at the WagerTalk live on screen right now. I'm seeing Alabama, 8.5, 9, total of 48. What do you want to do with the Crimson Tide and the Volunteers?
Guys, I am going to go under the total in this, and I am using the first half under 24. I've had success this year using more first half unders, taking the teams chasing in the second half, throwing the ball. And you look at Tennessee and Alabama. Alabama and Ohio State are almost mirrors of each other. You look at the last 6-7 years, the quarterback play they've had, and obviously this year, both teams are down significantly without having those NFL caliber quarterbacks. Jalen Milroe for Alabama, 64%. But again, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Bama's offense, not nearly what we have been accustomed to, averaging 368 yards per game and only 18 first downs per game. But their defense has been as good as advertised. They are actually number 3 in the country, allowing opponents 143 yards under what they've averaged versus other opponents. Again, when you look at the average, that is number 3. But the most surprising number, and maybe one of the most surprising numbers in all of college football, is Alabama has allowed 31 sacks on the year. Those 31 sacks are number 130 in the country. Only 3 teams in college football have allowed more sacks than Alabama. You look at the D-lines, these teams are number 3 and number 5 with 26 sacks for Alabama, and Tennessee comes in with 24 sacks. The D-lines dominate early. Both teams try to establish the line of scrimmage. This is an actual client release for me, under 24, first half, the third Saturday in October with Bama and Tennessee.
So I recognize that we're talking about this year's teams and not previous year's teams, but we got to talk about this series history. 52-49 last year. The total was 20 points higher and it flew over. 52-24 the year before that. The total was 68 and it flew over. And Bama in previous meetings, 48-35, 58-45, 49. Tennessee at no point has shown the ability to slow down Alabama. Is this year's Alabama offense really that much worse? And this year's Tennessee defense really that much better?
I don't know if Tennessee's defense is that much better, but they are number 14 when you're looking at yards per game average. The thing I'll say is this, Teddy, and again, I do an Alabama radio show every week, and we talk about Bama and break it down. Let's look. Their quarterbacks the last 7 years, Bryce Young, Mac Jones, Tua, Mac Jones, Tua, Jalen Hurts, Tua, Jalen Hurts. So you're talking NFL quarterbacks in that stretch over 7 years. So yes, I think their offense is that much significantly down than the last 7 to 10 years for Bama.
Ralph Michaels joining us, everybody. Outstanding stuff. Ralph, what do you have to promote for our clients?
Well, I have a 5% loaded for Saturday in college football. I have a 5% for Sunday. Let's see. If you bought those into the lead, that's $70. How about getting 30 days of every sport, every play for $199? That's just not me. That's any capper at WagerTalk. No coupon needed. Just head to the homepage. And FYI, make sure when you head to my homepage, you're downloading the Bet On It TNA guide. It's a 6-page PDF with every trend and angle from the Bet On It segment and the Streaker segment from Jeff Michaels as well.
There we go. Ralph Michaels, thanks for joining us. You can find him at wagertalk.com, exclusive handicapper with us. Teddy, before we get into what do bettors learn, I did my comedy night last night with my brothers. I don't have a video. I kind of have a video, but it's on my phone. We weren't allowed to video because they want to sell the videos. It's a charity event. So my future son-in-law took a video but got caught and whatever. Anyway, the night went great. It was amazing. Brian Regan was the headliner. He was super funny. You can see him on Netflix. With that said, last night I left my phone in the dressing room. And I made a conscious effort to not look at any of the scores because I really wanted to bask in the night. You know, all of us have siblings, brothers and sisters, etc. And I'm in my mid-50s and the brothers just don't get to hang out like we used to do, especially when we were kids. It was just such a great bonding opportunity for us. So I left my phone in the dressing room and purposely didn't look at one single score. Thank God. I had one of those nights, Teddy. I went 0-5. I lost all 3 of my NHL games. I lost my college football game on Marshall. I lost the NFL game on the under. And I did not know that I went 0-5 until I was in the car after the night. All of a sudden, the whole night comes crashing down on me. And I just want to say to everybody, look, guys, we got NBA coming up. College basketball is coming up. The month of November, there are going to be days where we release 10, 12 plays across all sports. These 0-5, 0-3, 0-7 days, they happen. We bet every single day of our lives. It is impossible to avoid those horrific, horrible days. They don't happen often. I actually can't remember the last time I had an 0-5 day, but I guarantee you Teddy has had them, Marco has had them, Ralph has had them. I guarantee you all of the listeners have had them. jump right back on the horse and let's get going because a big Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and that is in the rear view mirror. I do want to apologize. I had a good sales day yesterday. I let everybody down. It does affect me greatly. I woke up this morning for my old age pee. You have those, Teddy? Do you have the old age peas?
I'm just falling. I've fallen asleep already, dude. Is this your what you learned last night? I'm sorry. What are you talking about?
Okay, fine. I love you, Teddy. Anyway, I woke up this morning with one of those old age peas, and the only thing that came to my head was 0-5. I couldn't even get back to sleep. So now I'm a little bit out of it. Okay, schmuck. What did we learn in the wonderful world? Well, you know what? I'm happy you brought angry levity to that moment. What did we learn in the wonderful world of sports betting?
So it actually, your 3-minute diatribe there would have worked much better after my what bettors learned. But I appreciate you taking it ahead of time because I want to talk about life happening. Life happens. All right. Prez just talked about his life happened. Life happens sometimes. We're all trying to handicap. And for me, I'm a creature of rhythm, same routine every single week. Those are important to me. And this wasn't that kind of week. You know, I was sick on Sunday. I was sick on Monday. I still wasn't 100% on Tuesday. So Tuesday, I'm catching up on the work I normally do on Sunday. And the other aspects of the job don't go away. I'm still prepping and shooting WagerTalk today every morning. I'm still prepping and shooting NFL and college football videos for WagerTalk. I still need my content for Beat the Odds. And then my mom goes in the hospital on Wednesday. You know, I'm the contact person for the family because she's the one who moved to Las Vegas. No one else lives here. And she's fine. Thank you for your concern. She's fine. They're just monitoring her. But mom's in the hospital. You know, and I got a call. Relatives are calling me. What's going on? Da, 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 da. And then yesterday was Kara's birthday. And one thing a married man cannot do, especially one whose wife is a football widow every year, you can't not fuss over the birthday. So I'm making last-minute plans and running around. Fantastic dinner at Amalfi. Great night. No complaints whatsoever. But I was out with her yesterday. So to say I've been behind all week is something of an understatement. And this isn't a pity party for Teddy. I'm a grown-ass man. Nobody died. I can handle some adversity. What I wanted to talk about, the important thing here is what does a capper do on a week like this that is not a normal week? 3 things. 1, don't fire away randomly. This is not a normal week. Expect and create a shorter card. This is not a week with a 5% play for me, nor should it be. Number 2, post later. It's not about sales this week already. So take your damn time, find a handful of winners, get them up for your clients. Obviously, if you're a bettor and you're not selling plays, that means post later. It means you bet later. All right? 3, keep your play or pass process as much the same as you possibly can. I create short lists. I go through the short lists and decide player pass, one at a time. This week, the plays really have to stand out. And I'll be fine. You know, I don't expect to get crushed this week like any other. I'm going into it expecting to make a profit. And I feel like I've got some positive expectation wagers on tap for myself and my client. But that life happens week, it's going to happen to all of us at least once or twice a year. That's how I deal with it. Let us know how you guys deal with it in the comments section on YouTube. Thank you, Lawrence.
Well, obviously, we spoke about your mom, and I'm glad that it's nothing major other than that. You want to start with me about being boring? The hell, Teddy? You went on for 3 minutes about your freaking life. When did you shit? When did you piss? When do you eat? Nobody cares anyway.
Says the guy who hijacks every show to talk about his life and said, why don't we get anything from Teddy personally? So when Teddy gives some personal info, the way to do that, Lawrence, is to just punch me right in the face when I do that.
Hey, Teddy,
that really makes me feel great.
You started with me. I love you, bro.
I started with you because you hijacked.
I hijacked? I was talking Anyway, whatever. Can we have a namaste?
Oh.
Okay. Well, that's going to get some laughs. So one of the guys in the chat room writes, fade the Prez and you'll become a millionaire. Oh, no, a zillionaire. I don't actually know what a zillionaire is. I'd like to be one. Teddy, just to end that part of the segment, guys, man, come on. 0-5 night. Okay. Wow. Yay. That sucks. I won in college football. I had a winning NFL regular season. I won in NHL. I won in NBA. I won in college basketball, all in the last year. All Over all those seasons, I won. So please, if you want to lose your house, fade the Prez. Teddy, look at this NBA record from last year. Hakeem Prophet was the number one handicapper in NBA, 129 units. Ben Burns right after that, 105. The Prez, 93 units. Steve Merrill, 88. Marco D'Angelo, 83 and a half. And Teddy covers 65. Those are incredible numbers, guys. We had an outstanding NBA year last year across the board. There are many more handicappers that were in the positives. I just picked 6 to talk about. The reason I'm showing you this chart is because the NBA early bird special ends this Sunday. And guys, again, all 6 of us are going to have 0-3 nights in the NBA season. All 6 of us are going to have 3-day periods where we suck. All 6 of us are going to have losing weeks. All 6 of us are going to make you a shit ton of money over the entire NBA season. If you're going to bet with us, bet the whole year, start to finish. Enjoy the roller coaster. Embrace the rush. Well, that was like a slogan there. Marco D'Angelo joining us. Marco, anything to add so far to the show? And do you want to piss Teddy off? Because he doesn't look like he's ready to be pissed off again.
No, Prez, all I know is that I must be your jinx, your mush, because every week I come on, before my segment, I got to listen to you whine about the night before.
Well,
so maybe you
true.
should start having
That's
me come in on a different day.
Well, I tried to have you on Mondays, but supposedly you've got a 2.5-hour WagerTalk sales meeting that you can't seem to avoid.
You talk to Mr. Johnny Detroit on that one, sir.
Hey, Marco, did you?
Football?
Yeah, let's get straight into it, brother. You want to discuss the Toledo-Miami game. You like Toledo at -2. Tell us why.
Yeah, this is a battle of the top 2 teams in the divisions of the MAC. Both are 6-1, but in my opinion, Toledo is the far superior 6-1 team. I think the 2 divisions aren't close to the same strength. Both teams are very similar defensively. You've got one ranked 36th, one ranked 45th, not that much separation between them yards per play allowed. But offensively, it's a different story. Toledo is 18th in the country, and that's overall at yards per play. But when it comes to running the football, this team is an elite football team. They're 4th in the country, running at 6 yards a clip with their running game. Toledo runs and passes for both 200 yards. This is a little angle I like. I call these teams the 200 club members. When you have an offense that's balanced like that, it proposes a lot of problems for defensive coordinators and what type of game plan they're going to come up with. Because what do you take away? Do you take away the run? Do you take away the pass? They do both just as well. I like them. And you look at conference play so far, since Miami entered conference play, they've been held to under 100 yards rushing in 2 of their 3 games. While Toledo, in their 3 conference games this year, 269, 261, and 221 on the ground. When you are controlling the line of scrimmage like that, you are going to control the game. I'm going to go ahead and take Toledo. The last thing that has me on them, and for most people, they look at this and they send up a red flag. I'm just the opposite. Toledo was a huge favorite last week. They were a 17.5-point favorite. They only won 13-6 over Ball State. Now, everybody's going to say, hey, they only beat Ball State by 7 points as a big favorite. Now what are they going to do against another 6-1 team? They got caught looking ahead for 1. And 2, I love when a good team has a scare because that sets off all the alarm clocks, the wake-up calls, whatever antidote you want to use there, and they come back with a focused game next time out. You're going to get their A game. I'm going to go ahead and take Toledo, and here's one last stat for you. Teams when the game is +3 to -3, playing against teams that are on a 4-game or more against the spread streak, like Miami, if you would have played against those teams, college football, all games, just blindly playing against them, 39-13 against the spread over the last 5 years in college football. Go ahead and take Toledo and lay the 2.
Marco D'Angelo joining us again. You can find him at WagerTalk.com. He is one of the co-founders of the company and just an incredible handicapper. Marco, let's turn our attention to the NFL, and this is a big game. The Chargers are playing Kansas City. Chargers are +5.5. They were +6. There's some money coming in on them. How do you bet this game?
Well, guys, I'll tell you, I like both the total and the side in this game. For the show here, I'm going to go ahead and give you the side of the game. I think you're going to see points in this game. The history between these two teams are they go up and down the field on each other. Last 4 games have been 57, 51, 62, and 54 points. Now, with that many points scored, you would think that one of the teams got some separation in one of those games. They haven't. All 4 games have been decided by 6 points or less. You've got the Chargers in this game. This is an absolute must-win game for them. They're sitting at 2-3 on the season. If they go to 2-4, their season's pretty much over, in my opinion. Obviously, you would have Kansas City at 6-1 and a huge lead in the AFC West. But you look at the Chargers, they continually lose these close games. Their 3 losses this season all have been by 3 points or less. They have a history of playing the Chiefs well. Justin Herbert has good games against them, moves the team up and down the field. But in some of those games, is a lot of the games involving the Chargers, somewhere along the line, you got to worry about a Brandon Staley brain fart. Let's face it, he's going to do it at some point. But this is a spot here where, although Kansas City continues to win, they just, when you look at them, they just don't look like that dominant team that they've been in the past. The offense has been a little bit sluggish at times. I think the Chargers will be able to move the football in this game. I'm going to take the Chargers plus the points and give you some stats that back this. Kansas City, the last 3 seasons, when they've been a home favorite of 3.5 to 7. Now, we know how good Kansas City's been. So if they're under a touchdown favorite, it is definitely a more competitive game. They have not done well. 0-7 against the spread. They're also 0-8 against the spread the last 2 seasons following a win by 10 points or more. And go to the flip side with the Chargers. They are 6-0 against the spread on the road the last 3 seasons when they are coming off a rare game that went under the total. And of course, if you watch the Sunday or Monday night football game, you saw them involved in a 20-17 game. Everything adds up to me taking the Chargers. And I said I like the total in this game too. On the other show that I do bet on it, I did give the over out in this game. Even though we saw some early money come in on the under, I think it's a overreaction to the Thursday night result last week and the Monday night result involving the Chargers.
So you gave a couple of trends there that stood out to me because I'm looking at games that they did. What was that? The Chiefs having covered 0-7 at home against what?
When they are a 3.5 to 7 point favorite. So, they're not the
this
big
little
favorites.
range. Okay. Because the Chiefs have covered 4 of their last 5 overall. They've won back-to-back, the last 2 home games they've won and covered against Denver and Chicago. Obviously lesser competition, but they've been covering those point spreads. They're 4-1 against the spread the last 5. But of all the things you said, and let me start with this. I don't disagree with you on looking at the LA side. But of all the things you said, the one that stood out to me that I disagree with the most is Kansas City's not right. The Chiefs, I've been saying it from week 1, the Chiefs are an under team this year. They're not an over team. It's not about outscoring everyone. It's about relying on the defense. And when you look at their defensive numbers, they haven't allowed more than 20 points to any opponent all year. Does that worry you? Again, they gave up 21 to the Lions, but there was a defensive score in that game. That was a defensive touchdown. They gave up 14. KC's defense has been dominant this season, Saints level dominant, and no one seems to give them credit for that. talk to me about your thoughts on the Kansas City defense as opposed to their offense looking a little bit clunky.
They definitely are playing much better this year. Part of it, with the exception, okay, the Detroit game, we talked about, we know how good the Lions are playing this year and how that offense is. So I give them credit for that game. It was the first game of the season, and you know how it is with games won. And they have a tendency to be unders in the NFL. We look historically. But I'm looking at some of the other teams that they played. They haven't played offensive juggernauts this season. They've played the Bears, which, yes, can score points at times, but Justin Fields has been completely inconsistent for most of the season. They played the Jets. We know the problems with the Jets. And if you remember that Jet game, as bad as that Jet offense was, they actually did move the football in that game against Kansas City, but just didn't get the ball in the end zone, which has been a problem, with Zach Wilson. And Denver, okay, that was a Thursday night game. Denver had been scoring points this year, but that was the first division game, short week for Denver. Sean Payton and everything there, that's just been a train wreck there. Let's see what they do with the best, in my opinion, the best offense they faced this season, bar the Detroit game. If they have another under this week, Teddy, move over. I'll jump on that bandwagon with you, okay? But I want to see them stop the Chargers this week.
Marco, I'm so with you on that. When Teddy talked about the Kansas City defense, I wanted to jump in and say they've played 4 really low-scoring football teams, and they did allow 20 to the Jets. So let's hold off on anointing this Kansas City defense as some outstanding, great defense. This is a really good test. This is the first sort of pass-moving team really they've played against. So I'm not suggesting they're not great. I'm just saying that we don't know the answer yet. Marco, thanks for joining us, man. What do you got to promote?
Well, same thing Ralph was talking about. The best deal going right now, guys. You got every sport is running right now. $199, you pay $99 for a week. You're getting a full month of every sport for $199. That's 30 days, all access. And guys, last Saturday, college football, we went 5-1 for the week. I'm 3-0 on 5% plays. I haven't put my card up yet. I'm waiting on a couple things of confirmation. Looks like we're going to have another 5%. I'm going to definitely have 5% this week. It looks like I may have one in both college and NFL, which would be the first time this season. So jump on board, grab the $199 of your favorite capper. Never miss a play. Yes, you'll be there for all the losses, but if you trust that capper and he's been a proven winner to you before, you're going to be there for the entire ride, and that ride should get you to the winner's circle more often.
Marco D'Angelo, everyone. Teddy, we still got Art DiCesare joining us, and we will run the show a little late today because Art will have some great info. Your big game breakdown, bro. Let's go.
Let's talk big game breakdown. NFL on Sunday. The Washington Commanders travel to face the New Yorks. Looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen right now, Commanders pretty much 2.5 with some juice. I'm seeing 2.5 minus 15, 2.5 minus 20. You can find 2.5 minus 110 if you shop around. There are a couple of rogue threes out there now, but mostly Washington minus 2.5. Total for this ball game sitting in the 37.5 range. We've seen plenty of under money. And there's still question in the betting market as to whether Danny Dimes or Tyrod Taylor is going to start at quarterback for the Giants. I'm here to tell you it doesn't matter. Yes, Danny Jones is the starter and Taylor's the backup. But when you're playing behind an offensive line like that of the Giants right now, it doesn't matter if you have Patrick Mahomes back there. No quarterback has time to throw the football. There's no running game to take pressure off the quarterback. The Giants are getting eaten alive at the line of scrimmage, and that doesn't change whether it's Jones or Taylor at quarterback. And when you look at the matchup of that weak, injury-riddled Giants offensive line against the strength of the Commanders' defense, the front 7, the front 4, it's a mismatch in favor of Washington. Sam Howell's getting better, all right? He's not consistent, but he's taking shots downfield. And Washington has some playmakers. They can get quick strike scores. the G-men don't have quick strike score players right now. They don't have a quarterback who has time to make big plays downfield. So only one of these two teams has legit quick strike potential in this ball game. And we're getting, I would say, a little bit of value with Washington. Why? This line should be 3, maybe 3.5. It's sitting 2.5 still. Why? Because Washington's not winning box scores. They've been outstatted the last 5 games. Does that make them a bad team? Not necessarily, but it tells you that the wise guy support isn't going to be there for the Commanders. We talk about fading the public. Well, sometimes you want to take advantage of teams the wise guys aren't going to back, and Washington's one of those teams this week. That's another way to find value. Give me the Commanders, minus 2.5 in New York against the G-men. There's your big game breakdown. Lawrence?
Teddy, I love that play. I'm totally aligned with you. And also to point out, Washington's already got 2 road wins under their belt. Guys, we made some sales yesterday on Wager merch, and this and Puck Time were the only 2 shows it was discussed. So huge thank you. Terrific. Especially one of the guys ordered a WagerTalk hoodie. When you get that merch, take a picture, throw it up on X and tag us. Would love to see it. It's so greatly appreciated. For the guys who don't know what we're talking about, including Art DiCesare, check out WagerMerch.com. You will be able to find lots of our stuff, our logos, our brands. There's even one with Andrew and Carmine's face. And then you'll also be able to find a bunch of betting slogans and poker slogans as well. Art DiCesare joining us, everyone. And Art, we're going to get you some swag, bro. Check out wagermerch.com. Tell me what you want, and I will cover the bill and send you some Wager merch. Is that okay?
It's great, Prez. I wear my Puck Time hoodie all the time. Like, all the time. I mean, I think I had it on, last week on the show.
You did.
I always wear my Wager Time. Yeah, my Puck Time hoodie. I love that hoodie.
Well, go check out wagermerch.com and pick a couple of items, and I will pay for it and send it down to you, brother. You're such a good friend of the show. We love having you on.
Cool.
So, Art, I'm going to start with this because I got a question in the YouTube comments for the opening line report this week that I thought was a perfect question to ask you. So I want to thank all of you who commented. When you comment on YouTube, it helps all the algos. We really appreciate it very much. And that's one that I try to get into every week to answer some of the comments. So a guy was asking, and I thought it was a great question. He's like, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have a line on Cleveland, Indy all week where there's a quarterback question. You wouldn't have a line on the Giants and the Commanders all week because there's a quarterback question. And now it feels like nothing's changed in terms of the quarterback questions, but all of a sudden, books like the Westgate, who would never hang a line when a QB was in question, sometimes until Friday. Now you're hanging lines during the week. Talk about that transition for your book and how the books are dealing with the QB questions in a way. The quarterback questions haven't changed. The books have changed. Tell me about it.
That is a great question, Teddy, and it's a great observation, too, because you're right. I mean, there would be times where books felt, and this was even before I got into the industry, that we're not going to be the first to put up the number, or we're going to wait, or we have time to wait. And that was also pre every other state getting involved, Now,
yes.
You were just Vegas. So if Vegas wasn't hanging a number, nobody was hanging a number, right? Because there was no one else hanging a number. So I think we've got to a point where it's a lot of you gotta get with the times and you gotta roll with the times. You don't want to be the only sports book sitting here in the universe without a line on one of 12 or 13 NFL games. You just can't do it. So you have to trust your bookmakers. You have to trust the people who you're working with, who can sit there and monitor the lines and monitor the news and all that type of stuff. And that's just kind of the way you have to roll now. We don't sit there, and I've heard, from our top guys, Ed Salmons, Jeff Sherman, saying, we're not going to sit here and take a line off. We're going to adjust and feel out this process, and we're going to book the games.
As a bettor, all I can say is we appreciate it. I mean, legit, legit. And especially for quarterbacks, there were times in the olden times where I didn't feel like the two quarterbacks were all that different from a power rating standpoint. You still wouldn't see a number up. So it's great to see the books, even here in Vegas, changing with the times. Talk to me about this NFL card this week, and tell me about last night's game. How'd you guys do on Jags Saints? It felt like you guys might have done pretty good on that game.
Yeah, it was. It was actually really, there was a lot of, we talk about the quarterback, right? There was a lot of intrigue all week about Lawrence. He was banged up. It was a short week. So we saw a lot of early Saint money. People were laying Saints -1, Saints -2, even Saints -2.5. So it was a really nice result for us. When you look at the NFL, to me, and it's a game you just touched on, yeah, it might not be overwhelming sharp love on the Commanders, but we have seen some. We saw, sharp people lay the Commanders -2. They were happy to do that. Steelers-Rams game is interesting because it's been both sides. When the Steelers were 3.5, the sharps took 3.5. But then we've also seen some sharps want to lay the Rams -3. Detroit-Baltimore, you got to talk about that game, one of the best games of the weekend, probably the second best game. Could even be the best game. That's kind of been split action. A lot of love for both sides. Real public team this week has been Tampa Bay at home against Atlanta. You've seen a lot of love for Tampa in the market at -2.5. And then we saw some sharp money yesterday on the Bears +3. Bears +3 at home. Figuring you can't lay points with the Raiders on the road. So despite all the quarterback situation for both teams, Bears took money, and now we're at 2.5.
Okay. Let me ask, because there was. Let me ask you about college. There's certainly some interesting stuff in the NFL, and particularly, like you're saying, Tampa's a big public play this week. I wouldn't have thought that the Bucks would be one that the Joes were jumping all over. Did that surprise you, or are they just fading Atlanta? I don't understand that. Why that's a big public play.
It does surprise me a little bit, but I think it's more of a fade of Atlanta. Now, obviously, both teams are coming off a loss. That's a big game in the NFC South. Obviously, New Orleans lost last night. That division between those three teams is just wide open. But I think it's more of a fade of Atlanta and the way that team and that quarterback plays on the road.
Let's talk a little college football. Of course, we are talking with Arthur DiCesare at ArtDice21 on Twitter. He's a risk management supervisor over at the Westgate Superbook right here in Las Vegas. And Art, when it comes to the college card, obviously Ohio State, Penn State certainly a game that's drawing a lot of attention. And I've been hearing from bookmakers around town that Penn State seems to be the public side in that ball game. Is that the case at the Westgate? And what other games are you seeing, let's say, a sharp play on or public play on for college football tomorrow?
Yeah, Teddy, just to tackle that game, obviously that's the game of the week. You always got to look at a summer look-ahead line. If they were available, you got to throw out what that number was. Ohio State over the summer was a 9.5-point favorite. Yeah. So obviously the gap has really shrunk here. Now, Penn State has played nobody. Their schedule has been weak. Obviously, Ohio State went on the road and won that kind of miraculous game against Notre Dame. But I'm with you. It feels like the public is on Penn State, but it feels like eventually maybe we'll get some sharp money on Ohio State because you're getting a discount now on Ohio State. I mean, it's a real big discount from where it was. So, interesting game. Obviously, it's a early 9 a.m. Vegas kickoff, but that will be a huge handle game for us. There's no doubt about it. A couple of sharp plays in college. Pitt, who came off that really big win last week, Pitt was getting 2.5 at Wake Forest. That game's now down to a pick'em. So a lot of love for Pitt in the markets. Northwestern playing Nebraska. People took Northwestern sharps, 13.5, 12.5, and 11.5, where we sit at right now. And public is laying the big number with Texas, laying 23.5, and they're taking over in the UCF Oklahoma game. And that's actually gone up a couple of points. So the public has been good on that side with the move going towards them.
Art DiCesare joining us. And Art, let's talk a little bit of NHL. I know the season has just started. What kind of action are you taking on the NHL? Are there any teams that stand out? We got a massive card tomorrow. Have you got any big bets we should know about? Because, well, NHL rocks.
Prez, you know I love the NHL, man. That's in my top 2 or 3 favorite sports to watch and bet. I think the thing you've noticed about the NHL, and you had a big card last night, small card the schedule's been a little weird, right? You either have like a full day of games or you have like 2 games. It's been really odd like that. So we fall into that today with really only 2 games. And then obviously a big card tomorrow. You've noticed already slight, cashing out on unders, slight, like, 55%. And you've seen the home favorites been really good. Home favorites have been great. I mean, they've been crushing it early. So I think that's the thing I've noticed. And obviously, that's something we're always fighting against because we get a lot of home favorite parlays. People will lay any number with a home favorite and just parlay a couple of them together. So that's something I've noticed.
Art, I want to ask you an NFL question. So last night I was on the under in the New Orleans game, and it went over, obviously. Everybody loved the under. We had guys come on the show. They liked the team total New Orleans under, team total Jacksonville under, and on and on and on and on and on. My question to you, and because you see this differently to a lot of us, you're behind the counter, and you have a different sort of bird's eye view perspective. We have seen a shit ton of unders in the NFL this year. It's every week. It is under heavy at a very high level.
For the year.
61% to the under. Is this a trend that you feel will continue? Or like me, if you were an under better, which I am, would you start getting a little bit nervous? Is this the time that it's going? Is this the week the overs start kicking in?
It's a great question. And it's another, just look at the totals this week. 37, 40 and a half, 40 and a half, 37, 37 and a half. I mean, this is like 1980s football. I mean, this is when they played 17, 14 games and they ran the ball and it was defense. The whole league is geared towards offense. And it just feels like there's a lot of bad offensive teams. And I'm with you. Eventually, these numbers will bottom out. I mean, to see NFL totals, I mean, you have an NFL total in an Atlanta-Tampa Bay game where, I don't know, there's probably not going to be any weather affecting the game. I mean, it's probably going to be nice in Florida. It's not like it's a snow game, and you're at 37. Can that go any lower? I'm with you. I think eventually we will see the tide turn, and eventually some of our sharper players who normally like to take unders are going to find value in taking overs.
Yeah, and Art, I did an NFL presidential address this past week where I gave out 4 totals. I gave out the Jacksonville, New Orleans under. I gave out Atlanta, Tampa Bay under. I gave out Cleveland, Indianapolis under, and Green Bay, Denver under. And I love all 4 of those plays, and I was planning on releasing at least a few of them to my clients. And now I'm sitting here going, oh, slow down, Prez, man. I'm nervous, man. I'm worried that we're going to see a switch this week. And now I'm like, what do I do? Anyway, Teddy, what do you think? Do you think that there's just going to be a massive correction, or it's going to be sort of a slow build back towards 51, 49%?
One would anticipate moving forward that in any given week, the results will be pretty close to 50-50. That said, every single early start game this week, all the 10 o'clock games or the 1 o'clock games, whatever you want to call them, totaled at 42 or less, which, like Art said, something we haven't seen since the 80s, 90s. Yeah. It's been a while. If you played a bunch of overs this week, I wouldn't talk you out of it. Art, before we let you go real quick, I want to ask you about MLB. You played the Astros on the series price and they were down 2-0. You're feeling pretty good right now. Did you take bets on that? What are we looking moving forward with Houston, Texas, and Philly, Arizona?
Yeah, you know what, Teddy? We actually were kind of shaded, the buyback on Houston. And I don't want to say we were inducing bets on Texas, but we kind of were 10 cents lower than the rest of the market on Texas on the series price after game 3, after game 4. I mean, this is a fascinating series. Texas obviously can go win 2 games in Houston, but it really feels like they need to win this game because of obviously how bad Houston's been at home. They've lost 2 playoff games at home. They were 39-41 at home during the regular season. Texas has to get this game so they can at least have 2 swings at it, in Houston, because I don't know. It just feels like this is going off the tracks for them. And we're fighting against Texas. They're really bad for us for the World Series. So we really want to avoid Texas. So we're rooting for Houston.
Eddie?
Arthur DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook here in Las Vegas. Art, what do you have to promote? We appreciate your time every Friday. You get a chance to hype. Go.
Westgate, fellas, ladies and gentlemen, come down. Listen, this is the time of year. I heard, Marco say it. All the sports are going right now. How can you not love this time of year? A couple of weeks we'll have college basketball. We'll really have everything flowing. NBA starts on Tuesday. It's going to be great. So, come down to the Westgate, get everything you need as far as all your gambling goes for the whole season. Still got a lot of futures up, things in all sports that you can bet on. And if you have any questions and you need any help, you come down. If I'm there, ask for me. I'll pop out and I'll give you a couple of minutes and help you out.
Art DiCesare, everyone, thank you so much for taking your time to join us. Art, please check out Wager merch. Pick a couple of items. Let us send it to you. We love having you with us, part of our team. Teddy covers. I'm pumped. Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to come on Monday. We're going to be all happy, my friend. Anyway, guys, best of luck this weekend to all of you. Make sure to take advantage of that NBA early bird pricing. The NBA starts on Tuesday, and this pricing ends on Sunday. So jump in there and grab it. And also, real quick, we did show you the records of all the NBA, all the people who did great in NBA last year. I want to point out that Teddy does great in NBA every year. Teddy, take us home, bro.
Yeah, 60% in NBA last 335 sides in total since the All-Star break of 2022. So we're looking forward very much to the start of the NBA season, and we're looking forward to the weekend. I hope you guys are too. Enjoy the games. Best of luck. We'll see you right here on WagerTalk Today, Monday morning, bright and early. Best of luck. Enjoy the games.